And one of the things I obviously love about all this shit, for the record, last thing I want to mention about this is that while all of this stuff is happening, while we're celebrating Latin American culture, we must remind ourselves, hate to be the fucking woke guy here, but we do have to remind ourselves that the American government is currently forcing the hand of every Latin American country that has ever offered aid to the island nation of Cuba to stop sending oil, and that the island nation of Cuba is running out of oil. We are starving Cuba. We are actively starving Cuba. This is pretty much one man's design for the country. One man who has an endless amount of appetite for death and destruction, Marco Rubio, more so than even Donald Trump, which I will be getting to because friend of the show, Noah Colwin, actually went out to Cuba and did some investigative reporting, as he was talking about on this broadcast. My friend Noah Colwin's piece is now on Dropsite. One of the most important stories that unfortunately is getting overlooked. Marco Rubio is blocking Trump from actual talks with Cuba. Cuba has, I believe, 24 hours of jet fuel remaining on the island. In the process of this, Nicaragua has also restructured their visa. Normally, you could just go to Nicaragua if you're Cuban, visa free. They changed the classification of visas they changed the classification of visas in Nicaragua from a Class A to a Class C, which means now you can still get a visa with ease. It's like it's free, but there's additional checks that you need to go through. Okay, that's number one. Obviously, as I said, Mexico, which used to send a lot of oil to Cuba, is not allowed to send oil to Cuba. And as much as this hurts me to report, Claudia Sheinbaum is playing ball with the Trump administration on that front. They've been sending rice and solar panels and things of that nature, but that's not enough. Obviously, that's not going to make up for the oil that they need on the island. Because, like, you need oil if you want to fucking, if you want to drive the ambulances. Like, they run on oil, right? You need oil for the ambulances. You need oil for the generators, the hospital. The electricity grid runs on oil as well, oil and gas. And obviously, a big part of the reason why Donald Trump did what he did in Venezuela was because Venezuela was a major oil provider under the leadership of Maduro. And Delcy Rodriguez so far is playing ball with the Trump administration and is not shipping any oil to Venezuela. To Cuba. Sorry. Jason Hickel says, the U.S. cutting off oil to Cuba is truly one of the most depraved acts it is possible to imagine. Hospitals will close, food production will collapse, people will starve. It is urgent for U.S. citizens and every sane person to oppose this barbarism with all their might. I agree. Cuban here, the situation is dire as of the last couple of days. Yeah. Cubans are some of the proudest people I know, some of the bravest, most resilient people out there. It is fantastic. Or fantastic, what the fuck? It is, sorry, I was reading something. It is unimaginably depraved. I just read something here that had the word fantastic in it. It is cruel. It is unusual. It is cruel and unusual punishment. I thought I read somewhere that Mexico did send oil, but it was sold by the U.S. blockade. Stole by the U.S. blockade. I don't know. Now, there are obviously a lot of fucking solar panels and shit, but at the end of the day, you still need oil, okay? You need oil. You need some oil. The reality of the matter is, like, Mexico is doing some things, like sending stuff to Cuba, but it's not enough. Claudia, like the news in Mexico says, Claudia defies Trump, helps Cuba conservatives here using Cuba support as a way to attack Claudia. It's an unpopular issue because they say she helps Cuba, but not Mexico, so her hands are kind of tied. No, it's not a domestic consideration at all. The real reason why Claudia Sheinbaum is playing ball with the American government is because she doesn't want to get fucking invaded by the United States of America. She doesn't want to get hit with like unlimited tariffs and have the Mexican economy collapse. That's just the reality of the matter. Okay? That is the reality of the matter. It's sanctions. It's like Cuba doesn't want what happened to Venezuela to happen to Cuba. Okay? That's the same reason why both AMLO and Claudia Sheinbaum have played ball with the American government's immigration design, which continued throughout the Biden administration as well. If you don't know ball, let me put you on some game here. AMLO and the Morena Party was allowed to do welfare reform and allowed to expand the existing social safety nets in Mexico, which led to unimaginable popularity both for AMLO and now Claudia Sheinbaum, the Morena Party in general, because on the immigration front, they kept immigrants inside of Mexico. Donald Trump literally said, you have to keep these immigrants inside of Mexico. You cannot allow them to come into the United States of America. They said yes. Okay? While that was a costly endeavor overall, and it was inhumane in general, the reason why they did that was so that they could avoid, the American government coming in and pulling a fucking Venezuela, pulling an Iran, pulling a Libya, pulling a Syria. Wake the fuck up. The American government is the most powerful country on the fucking planet. They can destroy you. They can kill your people. They can do whatever the fuck they want. They have been supporting a genocide for the last 2.5 years at this point. You think other countries don't recognize that? They do. They know how powerful America is. Liberals need to wake up to that fucking reality. This is the reason why Claudia Sheinbaum is playing ball. It's still devastating, and I wish that Latin American countries could unite and pull through and say, what you're doing here is unimaginably cruel. We will not stand for it. And we will stand in opposition to the violence of empire. We will do everything in our power to save Cuba. I wish they would do that. But unfortunately, as it stands, they are not united and they are too fearful. Just as the Western powers have never stopped punishing Haiti for having a successful slave rebellion and liberating themselves, the American government has never stopped punishing Cuba for a similar crime, a crime of having a successful revolution. This doesn't have any sort of like real economic materialist reasons, okay? As a socialist who upholds the immortal science of Marxist-Leninism, this is one of those issues where it's not necessarily like Haiti and Cuba defy materialist analysis to a certain degree. I mean, nothing defies materialist analysis, but you see what I mean? It's not like you can't do this like vulgar materialist interpretation where you look at it and you think, oh, it's because, we want to abuse Cuba. You could easily have a totally normal relationship with Cuba and still continue to exploit the Cuban labor force. You can do the same with Haiti as well, but these two countries are kept unstable deliberately. Okay. Define everything is in their power. Do you mean war? What can Mexico do? Just send stuff, ignoring the U.S.? It's not just about Mexico. It's about all the Latin American countries. And not only is it about all the Latin American countries, but it's about China. It's about Russia. What? Because if you don't fight back against these dogs, and by that I mean us, okay, the United States of America, and we have a responsibility as well as American citizens. You and I also have a responsibility here. We have to take it to the fucking streets in the same way that we did for Palestine, in the same way that we did for Gaza. And yet, unfortunately, on this issue, a lot of people are completely sleepwalking into this rank cruelty and unlimited punishment. We have no clue. Most Americans have no fucking clue what is happening in Cuba right now. Most Americans are utterly oblivious to the ways in which we have made Cuba suffer in perpetuity and certainly have increased that suffering as of late. If you enjoyed Bad Bunny's performance as David Adler, friend of the show, my friend David Adler, co-general coordinator of the Progressive International, who was in Cuba with Noah, Right now, Donald Trump is laying siege on the island of Cuba, asphyxiating its people, shuttering its hospitals, starving them of food. If you care about America, then this is your fight. And he's right. I didn't realize Trump's been in POTUS since 1960, you effing R word. Their media absorption has unfortunately been quite effective, not to mention media literacy and basic historical education on Cuba. I know, but this is such spectacular cruelty that I think you'll. My suspicion is you'll see a lot of Cubans who have been somewhat frustrated with the Fidel Castro government of the past, and frustrated with like Cuba being communist. Even they are going to look at their family members being starved by the American government and go, maybe this is not the best way forward. I know that there's a lot of Cubans who are unimaginably reactionary, and this is precisely what they wanted all along. But watching it unfold is a little bit different than demanding it happen. It is completely and utterly unjustifiable. Mexico confirms oil shipments to Cuba are currently stopped under U.S. pressure. This is from this morning from Claudia Sheinbaum's morning announcement. Or no, this is not from this morning. This is from... Is it from this morning? Oh, it is from this morning. Yeah. Mexico confirms oil shipments to Cuba are currently stopped under U.S. pressure, but President Sheinbaum says Mexico is taking all diplomatic actions to resume them. It is very unjust. You cannot strangle a people like this. They don't have fuel for hospitals, for schools. Yes, they just published a piece over on Dropsite News about Rubio lying about U.S.-Cuba talks. Meanwhile, we have Representative Jimenez lying about a canceled meeting with Sheinbaum. There was never a meeting scheduled with the Mexican president. It always was for lawmakers from Mexico and the U.S. Reuters reporting that Russia will continue to supply oil to Cuba. I don't know if they will be able to do that. But this is a united struggle. The anti-colonial struggle is the same no matter where it is. This is why I also say, and as many people from developing nations will always say, something that I repeat sometimes jokingly, is that America is the great devil. Okay? Because the violence is the same, the methods are the same, the impact is the same, no matter where in the world. America has a grand design of destabilization, death, and destruction. Here is Davide Maria De Luca, a journalist based in Ukraine, saying, "Well, after the latest Russian attacks, Ukraine is plunging into darkness for ever longer hours. I am here to remind you again that this is a war crime that many nations have been more than willing to commit. Gaza has been without electricity for 2 years. Cuba has less than 4 hours of electricity per day due to the U.S. embargo. In Serbia, NATO left 70% of the country without power. In 1991, Iraq was pushed into a pre-industrial age by coalition bombing. Cutting electricity to civilian populations is now a standard tactic accepted and applied by most governments and militaries for decades." Okay? This is also another part of the reason why, regardless of what your feelings might be, if you understand the fucking sheer cruelty of the American empire in this circumstance, regardless of what your position is, you understand why fucking Khrushchev put those nukes there. Okay? That's it. You understand why there is a necessity for a fucking great world power that will at least push back against American domination. That's it. That's it. That's it. You might have setbacks in the USSR. You might have issues with the USSR. I certainly do as well. It's important to analyze it evenly, understand where they went wrong, and try to make sure that we don't repeat those mistakes. But the reality of the fucking matter is the USSR is part of the reason why Cubans were able to survive for as long as they did. Okay? This is where you lose the libs. I don't give a fuck if I lose the libs. Disgusting Western chauvinists. This is also why I say the USSR should not have been dissolved. Anyway, getting back to fucking Hogwatch, though. Winter in Ukraine is not like in Gaza. You're right, dude. That's why the Gaza genocide is not a real genocide, because the winter conditions in Ukraine are far worse. I can't even make a fucking comparison between Russia's violent actions in Ukraine and then tie it back to American imperialism without someone chirping in and talking to me about how Ukrainians have it much worse. Okay? It's not a fucking competition, dickhead. The fuck's wrong with you? And no, objectively, people in Gaza have it much worse. What are you talking about? Jesus Christ. Dude, suck my dick. I can't believe it, dude. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, dude. It's not like I'm taking a fucking pro-Russian stance here. I'm also talking about the suffering that Ukrainian people are withstanding. But even then, there has to be a fuckhead in the chat. There has to be an absolute dipshit, a monstrous dipshit in the chat that will turn around and be like, well, actually, the people of Gaza who have withstood a genocide for 2.5 years with unlimited weapons support from the United States of America, whose tents are now flooding, whose children are fucking dying to hypothermia even now in this so-called ceasefire process, they're actually doing great in comparison. Yeah, let's rank the suffering. Jesus Christ, the United States is now intercepting oil tankers in the Indian Ocean that dare to carry oil to starving Cuba. The Donroe Doctrine is not simply a vision for the hemisphere. It's a doctrine of global domination, says David Adler. It's true. Okay? If Russia provides oil, we have to start considering forgiving them for Ukraine. This will cause more damage in the Ukraine war if left fester long term. I don't think people understand how devastating this is for a developed nation. If Russia pulls through, which they won't, we have to start considering forgiving them from Ukraine. No, that's not going to happen. The non-aligned and the developing nations will, of course, increase their support for Russia. But there's no, these are two separate ordeals. Well, I guess they are somewhat tied from the perspective of many people around the world, but you don't have to forgive Russia for fucking invading Ukraine. That's ridiculous. Anyway, I will, however, in a purely selfish, for purely selfish reasons, because I do want Cuba to continue existing and Cubans to not die, hope that Russia will exhibit the political bravery in this moment, even if it's for purely selfish reasons, as even if it's for PR, to do everything in their fucking power. That tweet you read was wrong. That tanker in the Indian Ocean was heading to China from Venezuela. Okay. I hope that they can actually supply oil to Cuba. I don't know how they will do it. America has already shown that they are invested in intercepting Russian oil shipments as well, and Russian tankers as well. I wish that China would do that. I wish that Russia would do that. The Cubans have no other options at this point. I wish that the Latin American countries would continue doing that and withstand the short-term negative consequences of like additional embargoes. But the reality of the matter is, just as this is the same principle in your workplaces, it is the same when it comes to international cooperation. They can't kill all of us. Okay? United, we bargain. Divided, we beg. And the American design at the global stage is not dissimilar to the capital owner's design in the workplace. They are very effectively keeping countries atomized to the best of their ability, both internally, doing everything in their power to wreck the unification initiatives in numerous countries. This is a colonial design that America has expertly utilized over and over again. This is a design that exists at the domestic front. That's why we say the fight is not left versus right, it's up versus down, right? That's why Marxists, socialists, communists, leftists, anarchists will say, well, maybe not anarchists. Okay, I'm joking. But they'll say, no war but class war, okay? The same pattern of divide and conquer exists in every aspect of our lives. because we have lost the capacity to fucking hope, because we have lost the reductionism. Oh my God. Oh my God. Libs, see yourself out of this conversation for like 3 seconds, okay? Just for 3. Okay? Shut the fuck up. This is not your opportunity. This is not your opportunity to fucking chirp, okay? Hey, think about it this way. Cubans are black and brown, okay? If that's your only angle of comprehending politics, we are starving a black and brown country, okay? Class reductionism. Class is the underpinning of intersectionality. Without class, there is no intersectionality, okay? This doesn't mean that like racialized violence doesn't exist, but stop being a fucking moron for 3 seconds, okay? Jesus Christ. Class is basically the foundation of intersectionality. Without class analysis, there is no real intersectionality. It's just bullshit liberal theories, okay? Shut the fuck up. So what are you Americans going to do about Cuba? I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out myself at this moment as well. Asking libs not to be morons only works in theory. Yeah. Yes, all war is class war, including the race war. Anyway, let's get back to the funny ha-has for a second before I continue with my coverage on Cuba. Okay, because I didn't finish the hogs. I didn't finish the hogwash portion, and then I'm going to get back to, I'm going to give you your vegetables as well. Don't worry, you'll get your treats, your sweet treats, okay? As I was talking about, woke is fucking back. And of course, as woke is fucking back, there are some victims of woke Sharia. Okay? Victims of woke Sharia. We took a scalp yesterday, folks. As the Ayatollah of woke, I must explain to you, we took a scalp last night. Jake Paul. Jake Paul said, purposely turning off the halftime show. Let's rally together and show big corporations they can't just do whatever they want without consequences, which equals viewership for them. You are their benefit. Realize you have power. Turn off this halftime. A fake American citizen performing who publicly hates America. I cannot support that. Now, this is extra fucked considering who Jake Paul is. Okay? Jake Paul is an American from Ohio who moved to Puerto Rico because while Puerto Rican citizens pay 36% tax, Americans from the mainland that go to Puerto Rico only pay 3% tax. Jake Paul, being a multimillionaire, moved to Puerto Rico to take advantage of Puerto Rico's tax haven status for wealthy whites. Puerto Rico is basically an island territory that is currently being dominated by cryptocurrency charlatans, pedophiles of different sorts that are going over there to exploit the local population and to take advantage of the tax benefits. It is disgusting. It's unfair. And Bad Bunny has actually talked about it extensively. This is part of the reason why Jake Paul hates Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny has directly called out the Paul brothers for doing this, just so you understand. And what's really fucked up, what's doubly fucked up, is that Jake Paul actually has, not only has Jake Paul lived in Puerto Rico since 2021, Jake Paul is, of course, doing the classic lie that people from Puerto Rico are not American citizens. They are, right? People on the island can't, unfortunately, vote. They don't have an elected representative, but Puerto Ricans can move to the mainland and participate in the American theoretical bourgeois democracy. Jake Paul himself has also flown the Puerto Rican flag over and over again when it suits him and has been living there since 2021. Now, people yelled at him. Okay. And then he did a double down, into KFC double down. The problem with my tweet is the word fake being misinterpreted. He's not a fake citizen, obviously, because he's Puerto Rican, and I love Puerto Rico and all Americans who support the country. More so, Bunny is fake because of his values and criticisms of our great country. And then he did it again. He said, to clarify, I wasn't calling anyone a fake citizen because they're from Puerto Rico. I live in Puerto Rico. I love Puerto Rico. I've used all my platform to support Puerto Rico time and time again and will always do so. But if you're publicly criticizing ICE, who are doing their job and openly hating on America, I'm going to speak on it, period. That's the same reason I called out Hunter Hess. If you benefit from a country and the platform it gives you, but publicly disrespect it at the same time, that's what I mean by being a fake citizen. And I agree, love is more powerful than hate. Love America. So he's like, doubling down, tripling down. And then eventually he gives in and says, guys, I love Bad Bunny. I don't know what happened on my Twitter last night. Question mark, what the fuck? AOC also cooked his ass. You know who cooked his ass too? Like a bunch of my friends cooked his ass too. I loved it. A fake American citizen. Didn't you move to Puerto Rico to avoid paying your taxes while kids across America go hungry? Meanwhile, Benito actually funds low-income kids' access to arts and sports programs while you defund them. Of course you're mad. He made you look small. He makes you look small. This is how it will play out for all the anti-woke warriors, inshallah, under woke Sharia, which we will implement. Obviously, our fifth column infiltrator Zohran Kwame Mamdani has already implemented woke Sharia in New York, also known as Mamdanistan. We will do this to all reactionary Americans. We will offer them struggle sessions. We will offer them the opportunity to engage in self-crit. And if they do not, we will have the wokest struggle sessions of all time. And the cultural revolution will be implemented. And anti-wokes, reactionaries, rightists of all sorts and all different backgrounds will be brought to heel. As the woke Ayatollah, inshallah, I promise you this, okay? This is what you can look forward to. Is that why Zoran called Dion Canel a dictator? That's the self-crit I want? Shut the fuck up. I know. You don't have to bring that up every time, okay? Yes. Let me fucking joke a little bit. I'm also not the woke Sharia, the woke Ayatollah, okay? Jesus Christ, I can't even fucking make a couple jokes before chatters immediately slam that in as though I haven't talked about it a million times over. Logan Paul also dunked on his brother, recognizing which way the winds were blowing beforehand. He said, I love my brother, but I don't agree with this. Puerto Ricans are Americans, and I'm happy that they were given the opportunity to showcase the talent that comes from the island. Okay? Zohran Kwame Mamdani was simply doing a practice known as tequila, okay? When he was calling the Cuban government a tyrannical dictatorship alongside the Venezuelan government, he was simply doing the practice of tequila. Except Logan Paul here recognized which way the winds were blowing after he had already said he was not looking forward to the halftime show. Now, that's the reason why I said this is basically... That's the reason why I said this is basically like a filter. This halftime show is a filter, okay? Are you a hog? Are you lost? Are you far gone? Or are you a normal person? If you are a normal person, even if you have reactionary opinions, as one does sometimes, you looked at this halftime performance and you said, there's something I can take out of this. I can shake my ass to it. I like it. I like the music, all this stuff, right? But if you were an abnormal person, you looked at this halftime performance and you thought, shit like Laura Loomer. Here's an abnormal performance, an abnormal person reacting to it. It's kind of ironic how Bad Bunny was dancing on an electrical post of the Super Bowl halftime show. Puerto Rico isn't exactly known for having reliable electricity. He could have highlighted the electrical grid crisis in PR and done some good with his platform, but he chose degeneracy. To which I responded with, you are medically stupid. Looking at the unironic point and being like, well, I didn't understand the actual point that was being made here. But there is more to it. Both of the Paul brothers have... you're going to have to let it rip, bro. Oh, the R word? I'm not. Bradley Martin says, R word, it fixed it for you, Hasan. This motherfucker knows how my name is spelled. I can't believe he dropped the double S in there. Okay? What she is doing is kind of liberal coded. Yes. Wasn't the only person. Eric Sperling. Ironic how he refused to draw attention to the electrical grid in his performance. Drawing it. Oh, no, sorry. Eric Sperling is fucking making fun of Laura Loomer. Also ironic how the U.S. refused to invest in electricity for its territory as it cuts power for Cubans trying to turn it into a U.S. territory. I don't even like this type of music. Now speak nor speak basically any Spanish. And I thought it was a banger, hella good production value. Everyone was having fun. It seemed to mean a lot to a lot of people. And the point about United America at the end of the performance was really important as well. Yeah. I love when you say medically stupid. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm trying to be as woke as possible with, while still, saying what people understand, because my principled stance on this is that, like, obviously you need to be able to use pejoratives. Okay, we can't sanitize language to that degree. I'm not going to fucking get lost in this anyway. It's a dumb conversation. It's a dumb back and forth to have, and I think medically stupid is a good term to use without saying the R word. It's got good mouthfeel, much like troglodyte. Anyway, speak wokely and carry a big stick.